Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy Proftrof and we're back again with another video. This is Dovahhatty's new series. Unbiased History Byzantium 1. The Eastern Empire. Okay, your boy is excited as fuck because, well, I'm Bulgarian and Byzantium, Bulgaria like this. Well, not more like this, but it's okay. We shall see.
The year of our Lord, 476 AD, the year civilization fell. After a millennium gracing the world with order and prosperity, through treachery and evil, barbarians were beyond the gates and ushered in their long-sought Dark Age. Such was the fate of the West, its citizens doomed to despicable acts of cruelty, posed ignorance, and the tyranny of their new barbarian overlords. But while Rome may have fallen, the Eastern Roman Empire, Constantine's legacy yet stood, the defenders of Christianity, and the last bastion of Greco-Roman civilization. Even though it was ruled by Zeno, a civilized Isaurian, those being the barbarians that still lurked in the Anatolian mountains. If you recall, it was...
What the fuck is wrong with their heads, bro?
The barbarian.
Goddamn. Goddamn. It looks like if you combine some parts of this dude's head and this dude's head, you'd actually get a normal head.
That still lurked in the Anatolian mountains. If you recall, it was to
Zeno,
Zeno, those being the barbarians that still lurked in the
Unga bapunga minolai Greek. Put on shirt, cousins. My Greco-Roman subjects are more civilized than this.
Anatolian mountains. If you recall, it was to Zeno the Acer sent to the proclamation of the fall of the West. And given the absolute state it was in, no wonder. But that didn't cover the piles and piles of crap that filled Zeno's reign before and after. Remember that traitor that ruined Leo's invasion of Africa? I won't even bother with the time that he revolted and lost thanks to the turncoat Isaurian general, Illus. I will bother though with the fact that he was a monophysite. And what's a monophysite? Decades back, while Aetius was busy saving the world from the scourge of God, Attila, the other scourge of God, Satan, was as always working towards destroying the church and ushering in hell on earth. His current plan to divide the church and thus the empire was by leading fools into believing a neo-heresy. That is, remember the irrefutable truth that Christ has two equal natures, human and divine? Well, now there were satanically inspired idiots saying it was just one nature, a fused divine-human nature thingy, thus called the Monophysites, or idiots, pick one. All this heretical garbage was of course refuted in the Council of Chalcedon, condemning monophysitism as the heresy it was. But that didn't stop many fools in Egypt, Syria and Armenia from falling for the satanic plot, and thus a schism was born. Zeno would desperately come up with an act of union trying to compromise with the heretics, but it didn't go far, mostly because among all the treachery, revolts and earthquakes of his reign, even one by Anthemius' son, which failed, thanks to Illus, the empire remained divided in more ways than one. But you know what, forget about the Monophys, thanks to Illus, the empire remained divided in more
Guess I'll get another barbarian by then, that's how low tier emperor do.
more ways than one. But you know what, forget about the Monophysites for a second, because the Arians were still around, those being the hordes of barbarians Arius' followers preached to, who, attracted to satanic heresy...
This dude's reading the book upside down. Actually, both of them are reading the books upside down.
...converted en masse. Out of all of these heretic barbarians, Zeno had to deal with two Ostrogoths, a treacherous mercenary, Theodoric, and the Ostrogothic king, Theodoric. After failing to trick Theodoric into fighting Theodoric, and the Ostrogothic king, Theodoric.
Okay, I did not mishear. They're both named Theodoric.
After failing to trick Theodoric into fighting Theodoric, Theodoric eventually marched on Constantinople, looked at the walls, ransacked his way away, then he fell from his horse into a spear and died. With Theodoric's death, Theodoric's men joined Theodoric's horde, who would henceforth be known as Theodoric the Great. All this while Verina, Ariadne's mother, the wife of Zeno, had revolted and been arrested by Illus, incurring her wrath. After surviving an assassin from Ariadne, Illus retired to the east, was named Magister Militum, and then he revolted, don't ask me why. And who did Zeno send to fight him? Theodoric, who then crushed him. Why did Theodoric agree to this? So he could then revolt next to the capital and attack Constantinople, and fail.
Wait, so he let the dude that's ravaging his lands go through Byzantium to the other side of the empire so he could beat a little revolt. Wow, That's fucking next level logic right there.
So he could then revolt next to the capital and attack Constantinople and fail. As was barbarian tradition, after failing to take Constantinople, the barbarians took the bribes to piss off and became the West's problem, Odoacer's problem. Theodoric did just that, ransacking his way into Odoacer's Italy, who, lacking the powers he got from his long-gone master, Odoacer convinced him to join forces together in a barbarian alliance to tyrannize Italy. Then Theodoric killed him and all of his minions. Truly a dark age. Thus was born the Ostrogothic Kingdom of Italy, and before I vomit, let's focus on the Vatican, where the illustrious Pope resided. Relevant to us is that when he heard of Zeno's act of union, he refused to adhere to this compromise with heretics. In fact, he excommunicated Christians that went along with it, and started a schism with the East over it, to Satan's fury and delight. Zeno wasn't just hated by Christians though, but by his wife, and most people, for being Sassanian, remember? In fact, once an illness rendered him weak, the people just carried him off one day and buried him alive. For 3 days he screamed for mercy before running out of air. Such is the fate of those who compromise with heretics. In what would become the standard, the next emperor will be chosen by those in power, acclaimed by the plebs in the Hippodrome and confirmed by the Patriarch of Constantinople.
Hippodrome, the chariot racing stadium plebs went to appease in their short pathetic lives.
This time falling to the emperor's choose, the plebs began screaming, "Give us an Orthodox emperor. Give us a Roman emperor." Agreeing to this sentiment, Ariadne then began searching, trying to find a man who would make a good...
Targets: height, hotness, romance, skill, joking, skill, paternal, skill, intelligence, richness, work ethic, kindness, dancing skill, dick size, chin size, popularity, sex skill, fidelity, listening skill, FML unit, whatever the fuck, estrogen status, clitoris status, years until menopause, divorce probability, base rejection rate. Oof.
Good emperor, not just a husband, and after much contemplation...
Wow, that dude had that had zeros.
Man who would make a good emperor, not just a husband, and after much...
How is your dick size 0? And sex skills -10? Wait, is that me?
Contemplation, she had found him. The finance minister, Anastasius. Tall, handsome, smart, rich and popular, behind this 60-year-old Illyrian lies an important tale. For back when he was about to be behind this 60-year-old Illyrian lies an important tale. For back when he was about to be born in Illyria, the devil sought to corrupt this promising prodigy to his side. But alas, Anastasius' mother overcame the curse set on him. For the most part, because of the leftover satanic influence, he was cursed with one pitch black eye, and much worse, a predisposition for heresy. This literally dark side of him well known, the Patriarch made him vow to not betray the Council of Chalcedon, which he agreed to, and so was crowned as the Emperor. Which meant that Zeno's brother, Longinus, would not be...
That's the 0-10 sex guy. The no dick size.
Emperor. And we care about him because he funded the chariot racing teams in the Hippodrome, the Blues and the Greens. For hundreds of years now, the plebs were appeased by chariot races and such games, and by then only 2 teams remained. The Honorable Blues, representing the imperial system and orthodoxy, and the despicable Greens, standing for the degenerate plebeian masses and heresies like Monotheism. Goes without saying, the Greens constantly rioted and engaged in violence, even more so with their patrons scorned. Who, by the way, had returned to the Sarian Mountains, revolted, got crushed by Anastasius' legions, stirred trouble for years, and then was killed. In fact, Anastasius sent the new Imperial Guard, the Excubitors, to fight. The Palatini were just parade troops by then, and among these Excubitor guards was the new commander he promoted, Justin. Yet another Roman Illyrian of humble origins, Justin got tired of barbarians constantly invading his property, so he moved to Constantinople, joining the Imperial Guard as he was forming. Quickly becoming an officer, he had his family move to the capital as well, including his sister and recently born nephew, Flavius Petrus Sabatius, and his sister, vowed to give him the best Roman education.
How to raise a genius, vindictive Ramabu by Agrippina, Theodora.
Money can buy. And with power on his hands, Anastasius dedicated his life to the most important thing on existence, the economy. Channeling his inner Domitian, Anastasius did everything to spend less and gain more. For the first time since Diocletian, plebs were made to pay taxes in cash, not kind, having revived the old copper currency that had been destroyed by debasement in the 3rd century. He constantly lowered and abolished taxes, cracked down on corruption, and eliminated inefficient middlemen, causing a huge increase in revenue, piling up every single penny he could in the treasury. This economic boom went right along with the Christianization of the filthy, still pagan plebs. Now taught good Christian morals, including that constant breeding is a virtue and that infanticide is a sin, the population also boomed. With so much damn money pouring in, Anastasius made an exception and increased the soldiers' pay, attracting more Romans into enlisting, thus further diminishing the preference and need of barbarian mercenaries in the army. Every single day he refused to waste money on entertainment garbage, especially plebeian entertainment garbage, greatly infuriating the chariot-loving plebs. They would revolt left and right. It came to the point that one day, after the Blues gathered after yet another great victory, the Greens surrounded them in mass and slaughtered countless Blue fans, among them one of Anastasius' bastard sons.
But it's like nowadays football fans, but they don't really slaughter each other, they just kind of beat each other up sometimes. So when is the police gonna come up and whoop all their asses?
Furious at the news, Anastasius proclaimed a series of bans to punish the plebs, like outlawing the use of wild animals for spectacle, and banning pornographic dancing in the brothels of the empire. One day, he got so angry at the constant rioting, he said he would resign right then and there if they could immediately appoint a better emperor.
Oh.
The rioting then stopped, and the plebs dispersed. Watching from a distance was the Sassanid emperor, Kavad. Seeking only to start hostilities, Kavad demanded Anastasius to pay him to guard against the Huns, knowing he would refuse, which he did, so Kavad invaded.
Yeah, why the Huns like that now? Is that how the Huns are gonna be represented nowadays? Y'all remember what they were, and how low they've fallen? Look at them, they look so cute now. Used to be scary as hell, you couldn't look at their face, their horses had purple flames. Now they killed.
Empire. In response, Anastasius launched the biggest eastern army since the apostates' reign. Commanding it were generals like Justin and others, like Hypatius and Vitalian. Just your average Sassanid war, really. The Persians took some border cities, the Romans arrived, some back and forth, a plebeian general messed up, the emperor sent some reinforcements, the Sassanids overextended, got pushed back, and peace was restored, however momentary. Anastasius then used his money to build a huge fortress in Dara, which the Sassanids never ever stopped bitching about. And in the west, the redeployment of legions allowed, get this, the Slavs and the Bulgars to invade the empire. Now, the Bulgars did kill the Magister
What the fuck? Why we got 3 eyes though, boy? He's saying, do you see something? Any soldiers? I mean, as a Bulgarian, I gotta say, that's pretty accurate. 3 eyes, you know. Clubs.
But like the Slavs soon left, they didn't see a reason to stay there. The aggression of these new barbarians led Anastasius to build the Anastasian Wall, a structure you didn't hear about because it didn't last long. Indeed, increasingly Anastasius failed to keep his devilish curse at bay, and more fell to Satan's influence, culminating in Anastasius giving into heresy and replacing the Patriarch of Constantinople with a Monophysite. Seeing his beloved emperor partially fall to satanic heresy, Vitalian revolted to restore orthodoxy to power.
They warned me Satan would be attracted,
but was later beat by Anastasius' forces, sending him north, and Anastasius had enough self-control to not hunt him down. Gradually returning to normal and curious over who would succeed him, Anastasius hid a "you shall succeed me" letter under a chair and summoned his nephews, letting God decide through random chance. Then none of them sat on it. The hint taken, he just prayed and prayed for an answer, concluding the first person to pass his door would be the next emperor. In came Justin, and that was that. Assured the empire would be in good hands.
I don't think this is how you should be giving away empires, bruh. Hey, whoever walks in my place gets the empire. Let God decide. Let God have the wheel. One crash later.
7-year-old Anastasius finally left himself
years
die.
of life.
In total, Anastasius had left 320.
87 years of life? Nowadays, that's like, what, fucking 200 years old?
The first person to pass his door would be the next emperor. In came Justin, And that was that. Assured the empire would be on good hands, the 87-year-old Anastasius finally let himself die. In total, Anastasius had left 320,000 pounds of gold in the treasury, and now the question was who would be the one to enjoy it. I mean, we know, but they didn't. As always, the devil tried to ruin everything by having some Monophysites try to bribe and shield their way into power. The most important person to bribe, though, was the commander of the Imperial Guard, of course. And when Justin caught on to what was happening, he used the money he was bribed with to counter-bribe the bribers, thus nullifying their bribes. When they all gathered to decide the emperor, the Monophysite bribers were ignored, and Justin chosen in their place. Justin was thus proclaimed the new Roman emperor, cheered for what he was, an ultra-faithful Orthodox Christian, and as such he had Vitalian recalled and pardoned, and what's more, started a vicious persecution against heretics. Arianism was finally banned in the empire, and all Monophysites in government were kicked out, banned from joining the army, humiliated socially and financially wherever they dared show their face, including the wannabe emperors. The news of persecutions and slaughter of heretics in the east
what a good Christian.
And so, after decades, he agreed with Justin to end the schism with the east,
She's a man,
whereas in the
okay?
west, barbarians like the Franks had taken over Gaul, and Theodoric inherited Visigothic Spain, with the Vandals still occupying North Africa, with their new king, Hilderic. Surely enough, after the Vandals had sacked Rome, the remaining Theodosian family was brought over. Genseric would outlive the Western Empire for a little, and after Eudoxia was thoroughly raped by his son, he produced Hilderic, the half-Roman, half-Vandal. As Stilicho, he was
what did it say? Mommy, do you hate me for being half barbarian bastard?
Hilderic, the half-Roman, half-Vandal. As Stilicho, he was not. But he was still half-Roman, being somewhat able to see the light, welcoming true Christian missionaries into Africa, something his heretic barbarian kinsman detested. As for Theodoric, asking to subvert the East before he died off screen, he sent his son-in-law to be adopted as a son by Justin. But that didn't happen. Instead, Justin adopted him as a barbarian, aka not an heir. For Justin already had an heir, his now greatly educated nephew, who he had adopted as his son, giving him the name Justinian. A genius given the means to study it all, he became an expert on 3 fields of Roman excellence.
Taking all my
Studying
books
law,
again.
he understood what separated civilized man from savage barbarians. Getting acquainted with high-level theology, he adhered to Christian principles and never gave in to heresy. And by reading history, he got really happy and inspired, and eventually depressed and outraged. Called a man who never slept, he spent all days and nights perfecting his knowledge about everything, except military affairs. That would be delegated. A descendant of Roman settlers in Moesia, he had grown up hearing of the fall of the West, of the sacrifices of Aetius, Stilicho, and Majorian, of how a 1,000-year-old legacy had been destroyed by barbarous monsters. The indignation, the refusal to accept the losses sparked a fire deep within Justinian's soul, and fueling that raging fire was a dream to avenge the heroes of old, a dream to restore what had been lost, a dream to purge this rotten world. Of like at least 2 barbarian hordes, that would be a start.
At least 2,
All that time studying made him develop a taste for hard work though, and since every emperor needs an empress, Justinian began searching for a woman that would really push his limits. Alas, his prostitute informers told him of one such woman was nearby, and he went to find her. Looking for a plebeian degenerate, but not so degenerate he couldn't civilize and love, he searched for the perfect
Okay, let's
mix
see
of
the female
great
version of the scanner. Let's see the female version of the scanner. Beauty, hotness, seduction, virginity, tomboyness, intelligence, cooking skill, sucking skill, confidence, libido, tit size, ass size, popularity, honesty, fidelity, religiosity. Okay. Dick status, soft.
and awful, landing on a super hot prostitute, smart,
Virginity 0, cooking skill 0, honesty 0, fidelity 0, religiosity 0.
prophesied plebeian divorcee, Theodora, the love of his life.
Very
she of
used
course fell in
goods.
love as well, and Justinian would seek to make her a faithful Orthodox patrician wife, failing in only one field. Now, it was illegal for patrician men to marry plebeian women, of course, but Justin changed the law such that worthy women could be allowed to, if given permission, which was granted. Soon to become the couple that ruled the empire, Justinian came to enjoy appeasing the masses, throwing massive games and always cheering for the imperial blues, while Theodora didn't. Back to Theodoric, as his schemes failed, death neared, and Justin outlawed his Arian heresy, Theodoric behaved like, well, a barbarian. Cruelly persecuting good Catholic Christians through Italy, he came to the Pope one day and ordered him to go east and demand that heresy be made legal again. Justin then eagerly greeted the Pope, celebrated Christmas with him and Easter, and let him return with some minor concessions at hand. And for this, Theodoric threw him in a dungeon, letting the frail Pope abandoned until his death. Oof. The Italians had long despised barbarian rule, and now more than ever yearned for the empire to return. They were not alone. Justinian desired it far more. Lucky for him, they were not alone. Justinian desired.
Yeah, sometimes he also screams Praetorians angrily. Hey, I feel you, bro. Sometimes, some mornings I do that as well. You go brush your teeth and you're like, fucking Praetorians, bro. Fucked up everything.
Desired it far more. Lucky for him, he had just gotten to meet a genius new recruit in his executor guard, another Illyrian legend.
And that if only I could genocide a barbarian horde or two.
Sarius, a military genius indeed, and it was so obvious that Justinian granted him authority over his own regiment. Justinian, however, prepared for his own battles he would fight against the dark brother he had grown up with, Khosrau, the Sassanid prince. You see, the Sassanids had recently spread their barbaric tyranny to the Caucasus, and the spooked king of a Sassanid client state over there thus chose to change sides to the Romans, converting to Christianity. Kavad complained and complained, but Justin just ignored him. Enraged, Kavad came up with the same idea as the now-dead Theodoric, sending his son and heir to be adopted by Justin. But he did the same as before and adopted him not as a son, but as a barbarian. Khosrau
He gave him dog food.
Would then grow up together with Justin, learning whatever he could, all secrets and weaknesses.
So
but Kavad had become offended that the Sassanids were being treated like barbarians, you see. And thus the barbarian king of the barbarian empire committed a barbarous act and raised his barbarian hordes to commit barbarities against the barbarians' age.
Hey, that's very barbaric.
Old enemy. The barbarian didn't invade just to kill non-barbarians though, for the old decrepit Justin had recently died, and we all know what that means. As had been the case with so many uncles in Roman history, the day their nephews were acclaimed as Emperor of the Romans, great triumphs were soon to follow. Justinian would deal with the, 1 trillionth barbarian invasion of the empire, but it would not be against the barbarian Sassanids his great triumphs were to come. It had been but half a century since the fall of Rome in the West, and despite the monumental challenges he would face, the reign of Justinian the Great would focus on one thing above all others. The legitimacy of his reign secured by his father, the legions purged the barbarians, and under their best general in ages, the imperial coffers full and ready to fund great ventures, Justinian would give us all to fight against the currents of time, and restore Rome to its former glory. Or at least kill a lot of barbarians trying.
That's a lot of barbarian name drops, okay? Okay, we didn't see that much Bulgarians in the first episode. But it's okay, we saw the three eyes, okay? I'm not too disappointed with that. Comparing them to the other barbarian hordes, I think a third eye, it's okay, okay? I'm not too mad about that. Anyway, let me know what y'all think. Oh, quick thank you to the Patreons. Pedro Martinez _ unit, Rob Berry, Prince Zeta, Swastatic, Viewers Chicken 53, Senior Hilter, Lemon and Moon, and Eitmar. Thank you all. Thank you for supporting the channel. Yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.